All right, we're live.
Hi everyone who is potentially watching. Um, I am Adam. I am the Director of Internal Affairs at UniGlo, and basically what that means is I'll be moderating this call. Or this webinar. I'll be asking questions to our 4 exec members and be guiding the conversation. So yeah, if there are any questions at all that you want to ask, please drop them in the live chat and we will include them throughout the call. A little bit about myself. I am Thai. I went to school at NIST, but right now I'm going to college at Vassar, which is in Poughkeepsie, which is in upstate New York. I mostly applied to small liberal arts colleges in the US, but I also did a UCAS application and also applied to a big public school in Canada. I'm not sure what my major is yet, but I'm looking to study philosophy and probably do a minor in sustainability, which is in the environmental studies department. And right now I am mostly taking part in Eco Leaders, which is a group of small students who do environmental activities on campus and also off campus and engage with the Poughkeepsie community. And I'm also part of the Asian Students Association and the Southeast Asian Students Association. And just a very quick recap on the purpose of this webinar. We simply want to be here to share with you our experiences from our usual UniGlo, no BS student, honest student perspective. We just want to be here to talk about what we've been through. We are in no way experts, but having tackled these ideas for many months now, we feel like we have a lot to share and hope we can at least lead you on the right way, on the right path. So yeah, Kengo, take it away.
All right, cool. Hi guys, I'm Kengo. I'm a student, a sophomore actually, at the University of Pennsylvania, studying economics and consumer psychology, and a little bit of Japanese on the side as well. I graduated from NIST in 2017. That's kind of a long time ago actually, but yeah, and I'm studying economics because I kind of want to like do a lot of things about applying the knowledge that I learned from university and trying to solve like real world problems, and that's what Penn does best. So I actually apply to mostly large institutions, large private institutions, because of a lot of these applications that I sent out. These universities had like a core theme of like, you know, harnessing that knowledge and really like taking the practical side of education and of academia, and I thought I really liked that. Yeah, so I applied to big institutions like Penn, UCLA, Stanford, stuff like that. Yeah. And other like school involvements that I have, I kind of have like a bunch of stuff going on, but I can kind of like segment it into either my like kind of like social, like fun side stuff, and then my more pre-professional side. So on my pre-professional side, I'm doing like consulting clubs like News Consulting and Wharton Asia Exchange, which is like an investment firm thingy thing. Yeah. And on the other side, I do really, really fun stuff. Like I'm in Penn Coffee Club. I'm in the Japan Student Association. We had our like all you can eat sushi night just last night. It was crazy. I made like tamagoyaki from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. I made 150 eggs. It was but it was also like pretty terrible. Like I kind of like oh man, I resent tamago now, which is like kind of ridiculous. Okay, and then I'm also in like Disney acapella, which is something that I got into this semester. Yeah, I'm just doing a bunch of really cool stuff and having a lot of like cool experiences here. Yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Mimi. I'm half Thai, half English, and I graduated from Bangkok Patina School in 2017 as well. So with Kengo, right now I'm a sophomore at Claremont McKenna College in Claremont, California. And the way Claremont McKenna works is that it's one of the 5 undergraduate colleges in the Claremont Consortium. So we share resources like academically and socially with 4 other undergraduate colleges, Pomona, Pitzer, Scripps, and Harvey Mudd, but all the universities are administered separately. So if anyone also has questions about that, totally feel free to help answer. So right now I'm a sophomore studying literature and psychology. I love what I'm studying. That's why I'm doing it. I think I want to maybe like go into business after, but like right now I'm focusing on just like what I want to study in school. And just with my application journey, the other universities I applied to, a lot of them were a lot of bigger schools. Well, I was planning to on the East Coast, but then I ended up early decisioning to Claremont McKenna and then getting in, thank goodness. So here I am. And then aside from academics and everything, some of my main involvements, I'm very involved with theater on campus. I've been in like a few plays last year, and then I was just in a play like 2 days ago with Dini, yes. And I'm involved with Pomona Ventures, which is a consulting group on campus. We consult for small businesses in Los Angeles. And I'm also a tour guide alongside a few other things. Yeah.
All right. So my name is Ja, from Thailand, graduated from NIST this year. And currently I'm studying electrical engineering and computer science at UC Berkeley.
Yeah.
UC Berkeley, it's a large school. I applied to a lot of large engineering schools in addition to a couple of private ones. So definitely can answer questions about both like the UC system and large schools in general. Currently at university, I'm studying computer science, so I've been getting involved in the open computing facility where we provide free computing resources to undergraduate and graduate students at the university. And open source software. And yeah, I love computer science, and I can definitely talk a lot about that, like doing computer science at college, like applying it, putting on your application. So if you've got any questions about that, like throw them here.
Awesome. So hi guys, last one, I'm Dini. I'm also from Thailand, Indian, but born and raised in Bangkok. I currently graduated from NIST class of 2018, so just I want to say recently, but it's not really recently. It was like May, which just feels like a world away now. But I'm also at Claremont McKenna, like Mimi. I'm a first-year student here, and I love it so far. But in terms of my applications, I applied to kind of a range of schools. So like my final spectrum came down to schools like USC, Tufts, Claremont. So like they were all obviously on like 3 very different ends of like the size and the style of teaching spectrum. So I'm very happy to answer questions about the ranges between them and how to like look at certain criteria and the ways in which each of them were different. I definitely found my niche in like a small liberal arts college. So like and Mimi here, we enjoy the idea of having like small classrooms and things like that. So happy to talk about subjects like that. On campus, I'm involved in a few things. Like Mimi said, we just put on our one-act plays a couple nights ago. So getting involved with theater on campus, like I did in high school. I work with a lab for social impact here. So we do a lot of social entrepreneurship work and like practical skills application to like help build like leadership skills and communication skills and things like that among like student programming, faculty programming, and events and stuff like that. I also work with the Claremont Marketing Group as their director of administration. So happy to answer any questions about organizational sort of work and just kind of other fun things like I keep going on college campuses because there really isn't like a boring day around here.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. So those are intros. If anyone watching has any questions for us to answer at any point, please drop them in the live chat and we'll make a note of them and then reorder them in our list. But as for now, the first question I would like to throw out into the void is a question that comes from one of our pre-registration entries. And the person asks, I would like for you guys to answer some questions regarding how to differentiate yourself from the rest. For example, in terms of the personal statement, how do I make myself different from other applicants? So does anyone want to start with that question? Which is rather loaded, but.
Yeah. So I guess I can start. So I think that first and foremost, it's really important to like distinguish that we're not giving some sort of like all-encompassing advice. We're just sharing what we did and how like we think that our specific essays and our specific applications were differentiated in whatever way. So yeah, just about myself, I did a lot of Model United Nations in high school. And I also did a lot of like education related stuff because education is something that I'm passionate and interested about. So on the MUN side, I went to a bunch of conferences, traveled and like competed at like various levels all around Asia. And then on the other side in education, I was student teaching in like 3rd graders. I was going to different conferences hosted by my school. and just like participating and getting to learn a lot about like education philosophy and pedagogy and stuff like that. So I think that I was able to differentiate myself in that I had a very clear theme. Like I talked about education and how I kind of want to like influence it, but on a larger level with that sort of like MU and that public policy idea. And I felt like all the pieces fit together and made a lot of sense just on the admissions officer's perspective. So that might have been something that could have weighed in, I think. I think I did a pretty decent job in terms of making sure that there was that like single cohesive idea or theme or identity to myself that I could project on to my application and like someone could read and like just very clearly understand it. Yeah.
Something I did, which I thought was like a good way of standing out, like outside of my application, was that I emailed the colleges I applied to like a lot. I mean, it wasn't like every day me sending emails like, hey, but it was definitely like after I applied, I sent an email saying like, oh, just submitted my application, looking forward to hearing back from you. I emailed several times beforehand to the admissions counselor who I knew would be reading my application, just to ask some questions I had about the uni, ask if I could be put in contact with current students. And I really think that college like admissions counselors will remember those people who reach out in a genuine way. So you're not just asking questions for the sake of it, but you like want to know what's going on, and you want to know like how that information can then change like with you there in college. So if you hear that there's no marine biology club, oh my goodness, this would be the perfect opportunity for me to start it at this college, something like that.
So something that like in terms of like the personal statement, especially, like, so I definitely agree with whatever Mimi and Kengo have said, but I think with the personal statement it becomes hard. And like, we're not gonna lie, I honestly feel like every year it feels like that much harder to apply to college because there's just so many more cool things and so many more amazing things that everybody is doing. So your pool that you're seems to be so qualified. But I think if you understand that, like in a personal statement, especially when you're drafting your Common App, you need to like something I did like in my brainstorming for that, and when I was trying to figure out the topics that I thought would highlight the best parts of my personality that I wanted to bring forward, it was kind of, it wasn't, you know, highlighting the generic, like, you know, everyone here was student council president or was leader of blank. And I think those are great qualities. And I think they definitely are experiences that help you further on in a lot of ways. But you need to find those kind of niche qualities, or you need to find like things that, parts of your personality that like you almost don't always get to reflect on. So like when I was like going through my Common App, it was like, okay, like these are important experiences that I had in high school, and these are positions that I'm holding, and these are things that have like impacted me, but how did I get to those stages? And like, what were the qualities that I actually learned and like developed as a result of those? So it wasn't like I was talking about student council. It wasn't like I was talking about something like tangible. It was more like I was talking about my thought process and my learning process. And I think college admissions officers really like to see you being able to self-reflect, evaluate, and then carve in the way in which your experiences have let you do that. So that's like an important thing.
Yeah, I think definitely similar to Dini. Yeah, I try to select both the combination of experiences and reflections that matched up best and painted who I was best. Like, I pick experiences like the clubs I was involved in, but not necessarily that I was involved in those clubs, but what I learned from them, how I felt like being the leader, like what being a leader means to me, for example, or what computer science means to me, what I love about it. I think that's really like that's how I really like found a way to differentiate myself, because not all of us have the same motivations to study a subject or things we've been doing in high school, and some of us may have done similar activities in high school. I definitely wasn't the only person to do MUN or like start a club, but then like the way I approached it, my thought process behind it is like what makes me different.
Yep, I think that's an incredibly important point, because everyone out there would have probably done the same things as you, but not everyone out there had thought or felt the same about what you did as you did. So that's definitely an important point. And Kengo, I think you get at a really good point about that spike model as opposed to doing everything. I think you carved out a really clear trajectory about what direction your activities wanted to go into. And I felt similarly as well. And I think even though things were, I don't think it should limit the scale or the breadth of activities you want to do. But if there's a common thread or like a common reason as to why you're doing all those things, I think that that's something that would be really cool to share in your application as well. And I think something else that's really important is also letting your authentic voice flow. I think there's oftentimes a pressure of writing in a certain style or writing this certain essay to please someone else, but you have to remember that the person you're trying to best represent is yourself, and this essay, if anything, is for you to have a chance to reflect and actually think about what you've gone through. So just maintaining that voice and talking about something that you genuinely care about will really show through, because these officers are reading thousands upon thousands of essays, and they'll know when something is genuinely coming from the heart and something that you deeply care about, as opposed to this being an essay that you're writing because you think someone else wants to hear it. If you don't want to read your essay, then that's probably also a sign that someone out there probably wouldn't be too excited to read it as well.
Now,
Yeah, what were you going to say, Kengo?
You also have experience applying to the UK as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to kind of like be inclusive and talk a little bit about how you felt like you were able to differentiate on your UK applications. And talk a little bit about your app experience there.
Yes, so it's definitely a lot harder to stand out as a unique candidate in the sense that the main thing the UK admissions officers are really getting from you is your personal statement. Everything else is more or less the same. It's just general personal information, maybe a bit of space about your personal background, but it's mostly just the personal statement. I applied to philosophy, and I've never studied philosophy before, and I think that that was definitely an interesting thing to kind of tackle. I think the way in which I approached it to make sure that I stood out as an applicant was, again, to talk about my personal experiences and just why it mattered to me. I think oftentimes the UK essays, because they're so academic focused, can be a little bit lifeless, but I tried to really focus on why I cared about philosophy and the very minute experiences that I had in class, but that translated into a much grander scheme and passion for what I was studying. So I think it really goes back to that idea of having your own voice and just talking about something you care about, because for me, it was just so amazing to have all these epiphanies in class and to learn about all these cool concepts and ideas, even though it was, just part of a small part of each lesson. But I think the fact that I talked about that really demonstrated that I cared for this and I had a passion for this, and therefore it was worth me studying it. And so, yeah, I think talking about your personal experiences and why it truly matters to you on a personal level really counts. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, cool. All right, so the next question, or rather the topic, there are a couple of entries about this, but let's touch on the idea of choosing universities to apply for. So I think let's touch on maybe actually researching and actually dwindling down your list, and also finalizing that list once you have like a long list of schools to apply to. Yeah. So if anyone wants to start, you can go ahead.
The way I remember doing it was that I created like a massive table, and it had like uni name, weather, location, like top majors they have, just going on, and all these like different columns I needed to know. And I didn't limit it at like unis I had like wanted to go to, but just the ones which like I'd heard of a lot about. Just when someone like popped up with like a random name of a new university, I just like added it to the list, so I could just do my full research on it and then come like round afterwards, do a full circle and be like, oh, well, when I was researching this uni, like no way could I see myself there. And it would just be a case of like crossing things off. But since I had such a long list, it was like really helpful, because it was never like, I don't think I was ever at a point where there was only like one place. I'd done a lot of research and I had a lot of options.
Yeah, I definitely. Oh no, go for it.
All right. Okay. So I just wanted to say a little bit about U.S. news. Everyone looks at U.S. news, and I agree. It's sometimes we're engineers. We love numbers, rankings. They're easy to distill, but don't let U.S. news like define where you're going to university, like for real. But if you're an academic, not like me, right? Like I'm gonna talk about a little bit more about the academic side of picking universities. If you already know what you're gonna study, look at the curriculum. Like go look at their entry level courses. Look at the syllabus. It's probably online. Look at their like tracks. Are these like things you wanted to do? Like when I did my research, right, I was looking at UC Berkeley has 3 introductory computer science courses. This is what they teach. And then like maybe Columbia has these 3 courses. And then, I was looking, is this something I really want? Does this style of course like fit me? Does their curriculum fit me? Do they have many breadth requirements? They have few breadth requirements. How many upper divs can I take? Lower divs, like units, etc. Like
That's a lot of words.
well, yeah, lots of words. Research them, know what they mean. Right, like you're gonna be studying in university for the next 4 years, and you know it's and when you're applying, it's good to know what you're getting yourself into.
And conversely, you have to also think about the more like social life, the social side, the maybe not so academic, informal side of going to university, because you're spending 4 years of your life there, and like the environment and the people around you that surround you actually do make up a lot of the experience that you have. So like me going to Penn, there's a very strong club culture. So a lot of my friends I've made through clubs and through like gatherings from these different types of organizations. I'm like a lot more involved on campus because of the campus culture around Penn that says like make your friends, branch out, do a lot of cool stuff through the different clubs. And like we're kind of like at Penn, we're known as like that social IV. So we're like, so we're supposed to be kind of like looking out and going out and like doing new things. So that's definitely influenced my experience, and I'm sure like everyone else can attest to that.
Yeah, and definitely like biggest thing for me, like I think going out from high school as well was that like that balance and like culture for me was like I don't think like there's academic culture, there's social culture, and then there's also just like your ability to be able to like find a place within that. So I feel like especially with small liberal arts colleges, like Am and Mimi will talk about this as well, but one, we were already, all three of us were very sure that, you know, we wanted this sort of small like faculty student ratio. We wanted to be able to like very easily like approach our professors and have our classes not be, you know, 600 people. And my biggest class this semester was 19. So
wow.
Yeah, and Kengo will literally like maybe multiply that by what? 50. In that like helps you break down like in terms of the ways in which you know you thrive and the environments in which you know that you can do really well, which is obviously super important. And those are like a list of factors that you should always consider, especially when you're making that research table. It helps to like have that like color coded. Be like prioritize your list. You know, look at like what's most important to you. Like if you're saying like class size and then like club competitiveness, things like that. Like so rank those. Something like weather is important. Put it up on a higher ranking. If it's not as important to put it lower. I was like, yeah, weather, like I'll survive, whatever. Oh my God, guys, it should literally be number one. It is November. And so I cannot imagine being on the East Coast right now. So that's just like breaking those like factors down and prioritizing what you think is important to you. So going back to my point about balance was just that here. So when I did my research and when I started looking at colleges, it was a matter of saying, okay, this place clearly has a very social like club culture of like wanting students to get involved as much as they are academically outside of the classroom, which is something that like NIST and PPS and all of the international schools in Bangkok have always tried to foster, right? We've always been given the resources to be able to do that. So wanting to continue that in college was like a big part of it. So here they the avenues to be able to do that. So that was a big part of my research generally as well. And you'll see that like you get kind of overwhelmed by like the number of facilities and resources and opportunities at like giant schools. And you're just like, oh my God, I want to be in everything. But then you also realize that like academic load and like there isn't, you know, you have to like either pick and choose like those like one or two clubs and you just ride with those and then like academically, or you become someone who's like half and half, or you're more invested. So depending on like where you fit on that spectrum, it's important to like figure out how each university caters to that as well.
Yep. Yeah. So I think, Mimi, you touched on that spreadsheet approach. I think that's pretty typical of many counselors or international school students to have to create that huge spreadsheet with everything. But I definitely want to add that the importance of the spreadsheet, for me at least, was actually engaging that into a conversation. And what I mean by that is actually sharing what I found with my parents and my counselor, or anyone else who I felt was important. And as part of the process of choosing schools to apply to, I think you have to take into account these other audiences. Of course, you're at the center of it, but by talking to your parents or your teachers or your counselors, if they are important to you in your process, that's also very important. And the spreadsheet can be a really useful way to help break down the information to them, because you're the one who's going to know the most, and they might find it just as, if not more, overwhelming than you. So I think definitely engaging in a conversation with that spreadsheet is really important. Jai and Kengo, you touched on really good points about both the academic and social side of things. And Dini, you really touched on the idea of kind of choosing the place that allows you to thrive the most, or kind of where you want to be. And I think that's also a really important thing. Something else I think is worth pointing out is that you'll never be able to consider enough factors. Like there are so many schools out there and there are so many things that you can possibly think of. Like I remember my spreadsheet having like 20 columns or something about just like from statistics to, like activities or social things. And it was just, you can never cover everything, and you can also never fully know because you're never going to know until you're there at the university. And like Jas said, you can look at, US News, you can look at a bunch of these different sources, but it'll be really, really hard to fully grasp everything. So try to make that more feasible for yourself, like Dini said, through prioritization and truly thinking about where you want to see yourself in the next 4 years and thinking about those important factors. That process of breaking things down and prioritizing can be really, really valuable because you're also thinking through what you want. And touching back on the point of sources, I think it's very important to differentiate your sources. Don't just rely on that alumni who went to the school, and conversely, don't just rely on r/applying to college, or don't just rely on College Confidential. Take all those different sources into account, and also recognize when it's coming from students who are potentially angry or mad about the colleges versus coming from the college website itself. Just take those things into account. You guys all know critical thinking skills, so put them to good use. But I think it's really important to diversify your sources and get a full account of that as much as possible.
One thing we hadn't mentioned on that, just because it's such a big part of like at least the decision-making process, once you like decide the general like range of universities that you want to apply to, and then you like break those down into like your short list. I'm sure like all the seniors here definitely, if not like some of the juniors as well, would have heard about having to shortlist between like your reach schools, your fit schools, your safety schools. Like I cannot explain how much of an impact college visits had on me. Like college visits, like when I walked on the CMC's campus, I was like, there's just like this air, there's this aura. It's a vibe that like I can always try to explain to other people. And like I felt it on like different campuses as well. Like when you try to like go back and like tell your friends, or like even when I was trying to like tell my parents who were there with me, like, oh my God, like this is so like me, or I feel like it's something that you feel such a great attachment to. And if you do have the chance, I know like people do debate like whether college visits are worth it, because obviously, you're coming across from most probably Thailand to the US or the UK or wherever you're going. But trust me, those hold a lot of weight. And when you come, and if you can do something like, immerse yourself into the culture, if you could do like a, overnight visit, or if you could like attend a class or anything, that's great as well. But even just tours and information sessions and just getting to talk to admissions counselors here. I got to do an interview while I was here last summer. So it's just really nice to be able to like situate yourself kind of on the campus, even though not really here, but it's like, okay, could I see myself like walking these halls? Could I see myself like, going from class to like the quad or whatever, like, nice feeling. And you just get to know like the ways in which students like approach you, the ways in which faculty like treat you. Like that treatment is very different in every university, and it like really shapes like your vision of or view of how that university will impact you. So that's definitely something you should keep in mind.
With that though, if you like can't visit, that's totally fine as well. I didn't visit Claremont McKenna before I came here, and I applied early decision. I reached out and said that I couldn't come, and they did a Skype interview for me. So like Dini did hers on campus, I did mine over Skype. And some unis also have like a video application you can submit in the app. I didn't do mine, but I wish I did. Like it would have been just like funny to see what video I would have made. Yeah.
Yeah. To add to that, I had like a neutral experience with my college visits. I actually ended up not applying to any of the schools I visited. And I think the important point that gets to is just as important as it is to know what you want, it's also so helpful to know what you don't want. Because after all those campus visits, I knew exactly what I didn't want. And that really, really helps when you're like finalizing that list and shortlisting. And with that, I also want to point out that the list I had at the start of summer was completely different. Like every school was different except for one school by the time I got to like September, October. And after then, it just kept changing. So don't feel like you have to, have this list, solidified and, set in stone for the, a couple months before you apply. Like it's okay to change. I'm pretty sure I probably decided on one of those schools a week before the application deadline or something. And that's totally fine. And that's because you're also changing. It's senior year. It's a big year for you. And that's okay. Don't feel the pressure to have to set everything out. I mean, but if that's what you want and if that's going to be helpful to you, then go ahead. But don't feel the pressure. I think it's very, very valuable to keep your options open because you're always going to keep learning things throughout this whole process and never limit yourself to just, what you heard about 3 months ago or something.
And also just wanted to add like a small tiny point to the end. If you get stressed about, is this college like, a good fit for me? Like I want to stress the point, you can never really know until you come here or you go there. And, like I come here and then I figure like, this is perfect college for me. But people can thrive at many different places. But might, thrive better at some places, and that's the part. There's the part of doing your research, and then the part of just going there. That's the part of going to college itself. That then you know if you've made the right call.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. All right. So to shift gears a little bit, we got a couple questions on, I guess, kind of productivity-based things and work. So some of these questions were a little bit steering away from college, like organizing and prepping yourself for IB exams, which I don't think would be super relevant for everyone watching. But I think a general topic that would be useful in general is making sure you stay on task or improving your work ethic or how we manage our time, basically. And maybe if we can steer this towards the direction of college applications, taking into account the fact that we also had all these things to worry about at school, I think that would be a useful question. So if anyone has anything to say, you can go ahead and start.
Wow.
I mean, I think, if I may start, I remember about a year ago, I was in a very bad place. The Bangkok Survive Conference was going on, and I, submitted my early application really late, and everything was just a mess, and I was super, super stressed. And I think I just want to say that, like, looking back now that it's a year, that I have some distance from it, I think it's okay to feel like you are, kind of a mess. Because I really had the feeling that I was the only one and everyone around me had their stuff together. And it's college. It's freaking college. My whole life has led up to this whole thing. But I survived and I'm happy now and everything's going to be okay. And I know it's really cheesy and I know you hear it from everyone, but that's true. And I think the part of the reason why, looking back now, I'm glad I did what I did was because I remember thinking to myself at the start of senior year that I would much rather walk away from senior year knowing that I tried my best and involved myself into as many activities as I cared about as I could, as opposed to having neglected those completely for college applications or for work. And so I think if you are struggling to deal with that or navigate that, just sit down and think to yourself what matters to you the most in this final year and shape your year according to that. And even though you feel like things might be falling apart, everyone is going through it, even though they don't show it. Seriously, everyone is struggling in some way. And don't be afraid to, just speak to your friends or anyone at school who can help you navigate that if it's really bubbling up inside of you.
I'm a big organization person. So the way I stayed on task in school and also now is I bullet journal. I recommend. I have it here with me right now. Never leave home without it. But just every single day, kind of going through and prioritizing all the tasks I need to do alongside all my homework and IB work, because I focus on IB a lot. And I think this was just for me personally because I applied early decision and I was lucky enough to get in. My application journey ended in December, and I knew a lot of people were going through the application journey still. And so I was able to just at that point focus on IB. But if I had to keep continuing with apps, I would definitely have just kept prioritizing things with my scheduling.
Definitely on the practical side of that, how I work. So I'm a firm believer in everybody finds or has their own system. There is no way that two people are going to be yep, writing, giving notes to myself is going to work for two people on two people. It's not the way it works, guys. You can either be someone who's, a Google Calendar freak, or you'll be a Google Calendar and a notebook freak, or you'll find your mix and that mix will work for you and stick with that. There is no right way to organize. And I can't stress that enough because I feel so many times in high school, it was what, you don't use a journal? And I'm no, I don't use a journal. But I keep myself organized in other ways, or it was okay, me, the number of times I was you don't have a calendar set up. How do you do this? But people would have their own ways of doing things and it worked for them. So I think if you take the time to figure out okay, are you more of physical, written, book sort of person like Mimi is, or if you're someone who prefers having everything online, or if you're someone who wants a mix between that, or if you're someone who needs constant reminders versus someone who just wants a giant whiteboard with stuff written out. That's something for you to find out. keep checking our newsletters and things for like recommendations that we keep giving out about things like that, staying productive. Those are really great apps and tools to help you do that. And we're more than happy to share the ways in which we do that specifically. But I think the key behind that is that you need to find a way to take, especially this whole concept of like free time and procrastination and like turn that into like its own productivity. I know it sounds really bad to say that, you know, your free time needs to become productive, but don't consider free time as like, I just need to like, you know, like get away from the world and just like watch like mindless Netflix for like 5 hours a day because I deserve it. Like, you know, yes, I like want to say that. And I wish that was me in high school too, but like it got to a stage where I don't regret this, but it definitely like my like daily routines were like, because it's not just a balance of school and college and exams, then there's also your clubs and any extracurricular things you're doing and social interactions. Like don't consider social as something that's just like completely separate. Like, your social interactions are still a big part that carve your year. So when you look at all those things, if you need to do something like, you know, if you're spending the whole day, you have classes all day, you had one free period in which you just really needed to take that nap or whatever, when you come home, you can't watch an hour of Netflix. Okay, spend that hour and tune your mind to like make that meeting agenda for tomorrow and use that as like your free time or whatever. There's certain things that like, yes, do feel like sacrifices at sometimes, but if you're somebody that like knows that you enjoy the involvement, you enjoy all the extracurriculars and everything that you're doing and you want to balance that time, make sure you're just carving out that time for yourself and just start to look at things in like a little bit of a different perspective. Because the minute that you think of it as like a negative and you're like, oh, I'm like, you know, more work and like I'm not getting time to just relax, then it starts to become an issue. So if you can like do that and actually like cater that to yourself, then I think you can definitely you can make it work. But at least in time for yourself, this is something that we also try to like advocate for through our newsletters and things as well. It's something I was terrible at in high school, something I'm probably still very bad at here. But make sure that you're taking time within that. I know it sounds literally impossible. I thought it was impossible, but you just take the time to like, you know, find friends, find people, just find a support network that can really get you to be like, all right, you have been cramming for 48 hours, take an hour, take a nap, go put a face mask on your face and then get back to it, you know. Just take those times to actually like breathe a little bit for sure.
Well, I think for me in general, you know, like we've already heard a lot of organization techniques. There's calendars, there's notebooks. I'm a sticky notes person. Yeah, but definitely like finding the way you organize best, but also finding like, you know, like if there's a reason why you're not like wanting to work, like are you just allocating too many hours to working? Are you just like, you know, it's a fact of life and it's a cliche that we have 24 hours in a day and not all of us can spend 24 hours a day constantly working. I know I'm like unproductive for at least 2 hours a day. So that's me. So then I, you know, allocate work and then I allocate some rest time in between. But then if I get down to it, you know, sometimes just gonna get down to it, allocate like a chunk of time to work on it. That's me. But and then for my college, to put this in perspective, for my college essays, a large number of them I wrote in one sitting of like around like 8 hours.
Oh, that's not normal. That's not normal.
That's not,
try not to do.
No.
that's what I like. It's not 8 hours of like tapping on the keyboard like the whole time, but like, you know, like I sit down, I say like, you know, by the end of today, I try to have this essay done. So that's like the way I put myself to work.
Yeah, I kind of get that. Like I'm relatively, I tend to lean towards the lazy side when it comes to the type of person I am. I'm not so organized compared to Mimi and Am and Dini. There was one point where Am and Dini organized my life for a significant portion of my junior year. But with that being said, in college apps, all that, I did find a way to actually end up, you know, getting everything that I need to do get done, and also still manage to be my lazy self. And a lot had to do with just like being able to like choose that this time is like for work, and like I'll do a lot of work there, concentrate, go really hard, and like, you know, like grind out a bunch of stuff, different stuff, like pack the day. And then you have your other days where you can just be like, okay, like, you know, today's like I can do some work, but I can also spend some time resting. I can spend some time socializing with friends and relaxing. And like to be able to do that is really, really good. And I think, you know, in the long term increases your productivity during when you're actually working. So, you know, that like just split between it, I thought that was really effective for me, because if I were to like work every single day, then the lazy self would take over my organized self. And then I would be like, it's like the id and the ego, all that jazz. So yeah, I use it as well, and it works really well for me.
Yeah, I totally agree, Kengo. And just to summarize what we touched on, I think, yeah, prioritizing things and finding a system that works for you is very important. And also, I think with that, you also have to probably recognize that, at least for me, I never ended up finding the right system, per se. My system kept changing and I kept adding things, and don't feel like just because you're modifying your system, you're like behind on your organizational setness. Like it'll be an ever evolving thing. And as long as you're getting the stuff you need to get done, then so be it. You know, if it needs to change every other week, that's totally fine. And that point of turning procrastination to your own productivity, I think that really is a theme that ties everything together, because you should definitely consider what takes you more mental labor than other things and treat those as ways to kind of regulate your flow of work. I think you touched on a really good point, Kengo, of like not burning out, because it is not efficient to, at least for me, it's not efficient at all to work for so many hours on end. But having things kind of scheduled in between, whether that's meetings or, you know, just relaxing time to do nothing, doing that really maximizes my productivity and allows me to be much more efficient and to produce much better work, as opposed to kind of being a candle that's constantly being burned down. Yeah, cool. We have 2 potential topics we can touch on, and you guys let me know which one we should touch on, because they're rather different. But one is talking about general university life and what it's been like, and the other is just the general topic of essays. So which one do you guys want to tackle first?
Let's go with uni life.
Yeah, I think we were
cool.
talking about essays.
Yeah. I think, yeah, we already touched on essays. Yeah. So uni life, anyone want to start? We're all in fairly different spots, so if we could also do a quick touch of where we are and what the environment is like and what the school is like, that'd also be nice.
We just had a comment on.
Oh yes.
Oh, okay. I think someone just wanted essays to be a quick. They just retracted their message, but maybe we can do like a quick thing on essays.
Let's do essays.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Lightning round on essays. Okay. What's your most important takeaway about essays, or is there one thing we should know about essays? What should it be? I need some time to think about this.
Maybe open up with a story. Pretend the question is like, what's the best skill you have? Just from my like personal like writing experience, I wouldn't outright say my most important skill is dancing. I would like mold it into a story almost, so that you're like reading a narrative and you're finding, like, you know, show not tell. You're finding out someone's best skill from the story they tell.
On my end, I would say like what we often forget is that the person reading our application is a person. They are an admissions officer, but they are also human beings. And we forget about that, and we think that they're like, oh my God, admissions officers, crazy, like lucid people, right? In reality, they're just like normal people. Like some of these people like went to our universities that they were going to be applying to. Some of these people have worked there for a while, but like they're still, you know, human beings. And as a result, what we forget is that like they have to enjoy reading the application, and they have to enjoy getting to know you and to have a positive experience with you and with your application. So I think that like the main thing is when like your essay should be like enjoyable to read. It shouldn't be something where I'm reading it and I kind of like feel a little bit dead inside. It should be a little bit more enjoyable. Like I'm getting to know you, and that's like an amazing thing. And on top of that, it should be in a way where you can like get to know your authentic self and not just like a side of you that you want to show. But, you know, talk about like your real passions, your real experiences. If you don't necessarily have real passions per se, like current, like, oh my God, I want to do this. Just talk about you and then let your real personality shine through. Because I think that's a lot more important. And like, again, like people can read, especially admissions officers can read into whether you're being exploring and demonstrating your like real personality and real passions. versus just kind of like putting something out there for the sake of putting it out there.
I think just adding to Kengo's point, my number one big tip for essays, if you think it's bad, throw it out, get a new one. Like, don't hold on to bad essays, and if you've already decided it's bad, you're gonna be wasting your time trying to like polish turd. That's just the way it is.
That's such a good way to put it.
Yes.
Like on the point of like, sorry, Jack.
Like I know I had like tons of drafts. Like I had like literally 5-6 drafts before I found a topic I really liked. We're just talking about the topic here. And I even wish maybe there's so many ways your essay can progress, and you shouldn't be afraid of got a really great idea, just go for it. Take risks.
I definitely think on that point, on the point of just not keeping bad essays, but also like realizing that like topics and themes and any just like cool quotes or anything that you think of are going to be so easily applicable. This is obviously more for the US than it is the UK. You only submit one personal statement for the UK, but especially with the US, realize that just because like the way in which your topic or your theme came across was, not up to par, not like what it needed to be, or like you need to re-edit it, doesn't mean the topic or theme itself is like invalid or whatever. The number of essays, like I will be completely honest, and everyone here will testify to the fact that like we have like reused, reshaped, somehow like cross-bred like essay topics and themes across all of the essays we've submitted. So, and everybody does this, and it's totally okay. Nobody is asking you to like hit copy paste and just change the words around for an essay. No, don't do that. I'm saying in terms of like, there are only so many experiences, only so many like learning moments that you have had that you want to be reflecting on. You can't expect yourself to think of 10 distinct like, epiphany moments that you're going to be able to give out to college. And they understand that. So pick the ones that are most important. It's where like brainstorm becomes really important. So that's a whole other section of like how to, like, what to do. Like have a resource package that was like out from like our last event during the summer that like has a lot of those techniques and things. But like when you go to brainstorm, when you go to like look at the ways in which you're gonna put across your personality in terms of the experiences, in terms of like learning and all of that sort of stuff, then highlight the ones that are important to you, and then figure out ways in which like all these different stories, all these different experiences that you've had, the opportunities that like you've had in high school cater to those. And those opportunities will be applicable to more than one essay. It's not to say that, yep, okay, so I've already talked about my public speaking ability. No way no one else can hear about it. Like, no, of course not. Everyone needs to hear about it. So don't be afraid to like reuse those ideas and kind of craft them in a way that like best works for what the college is asking for. Because realize that like colleges, like as crazy as like their supplemental questions like seem, like at the end of the day, like they're all asking for the same thing. They're not all that creative either. Okay, like some applications, yes, they'll get funky and they'll be like, all right, favorite food, favorite hashtag, like song, whatever. Like, fun. But like at its core, it's like every college wants to know why you're applying to the college. They will word it in literally 50 different ways, but it's still the same. Dissect what those questions are like asking you for, and then realize that like at the end of the day, like they all want the same thing. So don't be afraid to use the same.
Yep. Cool. So to summarize some of the things that we touched on, importance of show not tell. Remember that your admissions officers are humans, and therefore it's really, really valuable to let your personality shine through than worrying about listing every single accomplishment you've done. That'll be what they want you to. That'll be what they want to admit you for, as opposed to boasting about all of your accomplishments. Like seeing that human aspect is really important, I think. Don't hold on to bad essays. Don't polish turd. Take risks and just go for it and explore. And I want to add with that idea, for me, it really helped to see writing as a thinking process. So to actually treat the process of writing and typing on your keyboard or writing in a notebook as part of your thinking and developing ideas, that really helped. Because before, I kind of thought that there was a separation between actually brewing the ideas in my head and then typing them down and having it come out in this wonderful way. That just didn't work. But what did work was actually sitting down, just typing a bunch of things, whether it was like incoherent sentences or like brain dumping random ideas. Just treating the writing process as your thinking process is really, really helpful. And then, there are only so many core themes you can touch on, so don't be afraid to have to possibly like touch on those ideas again throughout your different essays. And for the UK, I just want to touch on the fact that just talk about what matters to you, because even though the UK essay is a little bit more academic based and a little bit more structured, you can still really show why you care about the subject, and that's equally important to expressing why you want to study. I mean, if anything, those two should be coinciding. So yeah, I think to wrap up, let's do a quick summary of how uni life has been for all of us. I think that'd be a good way to end things on, and just anything we want any current high schoolers to hear about what uni life has been like. So if anyone wants to start, and after that, we'll probably end this webinar.
So I guess I'll start. Penn has a motto of like work hard, play hard culture, where we have a lot of time like grinding, but we also again like compartmentalize that and then still end up having a lot of fun. So that's been my life over the past year and a half. Is just I've been like definitely doing a lot in terms of pre-professional stuff, doing a lot with academics, but also a lot in terms of doing club stuff, hanging out with friends, and just having a good time with all these new people that I've met.
For me, I would say that uni life in general has been like really great academically and socially. Claremont McKenna, I think, isn't a competitive school between other students, like this culture here, but rather it's more competitive with yourself. So you, at all points, always want to do better because people are around you, supporting you a lot and empowering you to do so.
I'll definitely like testify to the fact that the CMC, like definitely like in the initial process when you're coming in, even now, like I think as a freshman, like when you're looking around, you're like, oh my God, everybody is so qualified. Everyone's so, smart. And like, that's all you have to say because everyone is so qualified to be doing everything that they're doing. But you realize that it's this like interesting culture of like, everyone wants to do well, but everyone wants to do well for the sake of themselves doing well. It's not like I want to do well because I want to do better than that person. And I think that was such a big part of like my initial like attraction towards the college, and that's actually like shown through right now. So a lot of people like here, like I was talking about before, like the balance between being a CMCer is be able to have that academic and extracurricular and social balance like all there. So they give you the opportunities and resources to be able to try to maximize that for yourself. So college life has just been a lot. Like there's just always something going on. They really don't let you stop in a sense, but like it's in the best sense of it. Like I think if you know you're a CMC or like you're someone like when you apply to college, you fit that persona because like me, even in high school, like for anyone that knew me, like it was like I wasn't sitting still in high school. Like it wasn't a day where I would just like sit in the library and be like, okay, yeah, like we're just gonna relax. Like there was always something going on. So I think anyone who enjoyed that just kind of rush and stress, to be honest, as much as I complain about it, like I think knowing that you thrive in certain environments like that or knowing that you don't, like I was talking about before, so that's definitely been a big part of what college has been so far. It's been fun. It's been really fun.
I think college for me has been a really liberating experience. UC Berkeley, it's a huge school. We've got large lectures. And one advantage of that, if you don't show up, no one cares. We've got webcasts. Yeah, we have our lectures are recorded. A lot of them are. So some professors will even encourage you watch them. So, there's a kind of like, it's your education. So make what you want of it. If you don't show up, that's a you thing. But then we have literally hundreds of student organizations. There's literally a space for every single type of person. And I've met so many like diverse types of people from all. I think that's the most amazing part of it being at like a large state college here. So football games are actually really fun when you go with friends. But going with your friends would recommend.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I don't know, for me, my college experience so far has been really, really positive. And I don't know, I feel like I've just met so many incredible people, and it's been really, really great. And I think, so if anyone out there is feeling like pretty trapped or feeling pretty tired and done with the life you have right now, don't worry, because once you get to college, like I'm not saying that this will definitely be the case, but it'll open up so many doors for you, and you'll be able to really take the course of your life that you have been wanting to take for so long, or that you hope to explore and spontaneously adopt. And yeah, it's just like Jazz said, it's really liberating, even at a small school. I feel like I've really come into my own a lot more, and I'm still coming to my own, but I feel like this is the perfect place for me to learn and grow in that way. And that has been really, really meaningful. And yeah, like Dini said, there's always something going on. So I also want to debunk the common myth that LACs, even in a small town like Poughkeepsie, there's nothing happening. There's always stuff happening, and there's always ways to engage with the community and anyone around you in your sphere. So don't feel like
what's LACs?
LACs are liberal arts colleges, small liberal arts colleges. Like at Vassar, I think my year only has 600 students, so in total we're about 2,000 something. There are schools that are smaller, and schools are also a little bit larger, yeah, like Claremont. But there's always something going on, even though we're in no town, Poughkeepsie. Yeah, and Poughkeepsie is a lovely place, by the way. I just want to very quickly touch on one question we had on financial aid. I think it's a little bit difficult for us to speak about that because it varies so vastly for many different schools. However, I will note that most of the financial aid information for each school, especially U.S. colleges at least, are available on their website. Some schools offer scholarships for international students, some you have to apply for, some are just automatically considered. So I think that's a really difficult question for us to answer unless you know the specific schools or the specific sorts of programs you want to go into. So to anyone who's wondering about that, I strongly recommend you designating a lot of time to research that. And also don't forget to have obviously the important conversations with your parents or your counselors or whoever it is who you need to talk to regarding those matters. Yeah, and there's also a very quick question about whether or not being in a Thai school or being in Thailand, or if being in Thailand is a disadvantage when comparing to finishing high schools in the UK.
So I think
yeah, go ahead.
I can just quickly answer this. So applications are always evaluated in the context of where you're growing up, your environment, your academics, where you're from. So an application from Thailand isn't necessarily, evaluated in the same way as a application in the UK, or application in Vietnam, or so on and so forth, right? So I can't say for sure if something puts you at an advantage or at a disadvantage, but it just means that you're definitely evaluated differently, right? So what I would consider is, given the environment of where you are and what you're doing within that environment, how many opportunities do you have available to you? How many of those opportunities are you actually taking up? How active are you within your school communities, or like what academic resources are you using within within what's available to you, right? If you've been offered the full IB, if you take it, that's awesome. But if you're being given like 15 APs to choose from and maybe like not only doing like one or two, or not taking advantage of all the really good stuff that's offered to you, then that might reflect upon your application and so on and so forth, right? So just in general, I would definitely recommend kind of reframing the way you're thinking, instead of thinking like, I'm going to get an advantage by going to this different location, or I'm going to get an advantage by doing this differently. Just, instead think about like, what can I do to maximize my time at wherever I am? Like, if I go to NIST, what can I do to really get the most out of my experience at NIST? And from there, like, go on to think about like, this experience that I had at NIST, or this experience I had at BPS, what university would let me really kind of expand upon this experience, right? Really capitalize upon the like even greater opportunities that all of these different colleges and universities offer, and how you can kind of like keep on continuing to grow as you go to the US, UK, or college abroad.
Yep, and I definitely just want to touch on the fact that don't think about whether or not you're at a disadvantage with other schools or other people. Think about the application process as a way for you to highlight your, the things that you've been through and the meaningful experiences you've had. And yeah, like Kengo said, officers will always view your application in the context of where you're from, at least from what we understand. So yeah, don't have the mindset of like, I'm at a disadvantage with other people, but just consider, hey, they're going to take into account my background, and I'm just here to be able to demonstrate what has been the most meaningful to me. And yeah, I think that's a much healthier and also much more valuable mindset to adopt.
Okay, yeah, awesome. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to like just reach out to any of us over Facebook. You can email any of us at info@UniGlo, uni-glow.org. And then that way you can just kind of like direct any questions that you weren't able to ask us during this webinar. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. All of our channels are always open. You can even just message us on Facebook, and we'll try to get back to you. Whatever it is, whatever is easiest for you. We wish everyone good luck. it's going to be okay. You still have plenty of time left. Trust me, you have plenty of time left.
Yeah.
And good luck.
Yeah. So
Whatever your application journey looks like, it'll be the right one for you. So
Yes.
don't stress.
Remember
Yes.
that. And
Yes.
we'll all be back. At least most of us will be back in Bangkok in December. So stay tuned for information about our January event and things like that that we're going to be hosting. As always, we're accessible to you. So newsletter, Facebook channels, all of that sort of stuff. Yeah, we're here for you. So don't be afraid to reach out and do what you need to do to be able to get through this. We're all going to get through it together.
Okay.
Yep.
I
Good
hope
luck.
you guys,
right,
hope
with
you guys
that,
found
we're
this
all
webinar
checking out.
valuable.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
You
you
guys.
all. Have a good day.